I'm Brian York with the York Real Estate Team, Rematch Concepts, and I'm down here with Chris Vance, local and national artist here in town. I just want to talk a little bit about the Arts Fest, and you're going to be featured in the Arts Fest here. You've got some work there. I think it'd be good just to kind of share with the viewers a little bit about your life, how you ended up becoming an artist, and just kind of everything about you. So when did you start getting into the arts?
At a young age, I took classes at the Art Center. Never really thought of it as something that I would pursue for a career, and always was kind of in it through high school. Got to college, and like I said, it's like computers started happening, and I never envisioned myself sitting in front of a computer. I wanted to be an architect. I loved drafting classes where I was using, my hands, and it just kind of one thing led to another. I was taking some art classes, and I was getting really good grades, and I thought, man, maybe this could work. And then I called my father and said, I'm thinking about being an artist. And he said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I said, okay. And that was the motivation I needed to be like, all right, I'm going to do this to prove you wrong.
Absolutely.
And, I was a little bit rebellious, and, that actually plays out in my work. So I totally jumped and dived in, and once I did that, my grade point average got better. Everything I loved college all of a sudden, because I was doing something that I wanted to be doing. And I got out, and things kind of just snowballed from there. It just was like, try to do a little show, invited some family and friends, and then kind of just kept working hard the whole time. And I think that's probably my skill set. I don't know that I'm an amazing painter. I just know that I've learned a bunch of tricks because I've been painting every day since the moment I decided to do this.
So you've been grinding, putting in the hours.
Yeah, and then it just kind of, you learn tricks, you learn new ways to do things, you make mistakes, you figure out ways to fix it, know? Just like anybody, like a drywall guy or whatever. I mean, if they're at it every day and they've been doing it for 25 years, they understand, like, oh, I remember that one house, we screwed that up, let's not do that again.
Sure.
So
here was the fix.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the thing of how I got into this, and it's just really a passion at this point. I mean, I tell people all the time, they're like, do you have a style? And I'm like, well, it's always evolving. Like, I think about it like a book. Like, you want to read the next chapter because you don't know what you're going to see. So I have everything from my figurative work that's on murals to abstract work that you could see anywhere from the Principal to Prairie Meadows, all around town, on buildings. But it's like this ongoing thing of what's next that keeps me excited about my work.
Sure.
And like, that's, for me, like, this art festival this year is very important because I haven't shown my work to Des Moines people really for a couple years, and my work has changed. And if you follow my Instagram and Facebook, and you come to my Mulberry Gallery show, you've seen my new work. But for the most part, I mean, to the street,
right,
I haven't brought it. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen.
Very nice. So you talked a little bit about murals there. I know that you've got some pieces in Bondurant and whatnot. Kind of tell us a little bit about some of that work where people can see your work really big.
So the biggest one is down by the Capitol over on Metro Waste. That was my first mural project. 3 stories. I mean, very intimidating at the time, but it was fun. And then there's been others, like, actually if they come to the festival, on the festival site is on Ford and Garland, the building over on Locust. There's a big mural on the side of that. That was actually a 20-year commemorative poster piece for the Des Moines Art Festival that I actually painted the poster, or the painting for the poster, and then translated that image onto the building.
Very nice.
So
I know that one. That one's huge.
And then in Bondurant, I've done 2 different murals, both with high school students, both funded by the Bondurant Community Foundation, that obviously loves having me in the town. And actually, Bondurant High School is really well known for their art department. It's not very well known, but they've won state. It's not like when it's state in football.
Sure.
But they've won state for like 3 out of the last 5 years, and they're not even in their own class. They're competing in the highest class because...
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's crazy.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So we were talking a little bit earlier, and you were telling me a little bit about the festival artist.
Sure.
Kind of explain what you mean by that and just kind of the lifestyle of that.
So the lifestyle of festival artists, there's a lot of stuff that people don't know. Number one, there's a lot of traveling. I'm actually pretty lucky because I live in Des Moines and I'm very centrally located. So I can be to Chicago in 5 hours, Denver 9. I can, I go all the way to California. That's different. But I can do Kansas City, Minneapolis, like St. Louis, all 5-hour trips. And the Midwest art fairs are big and well attended because unlike the big cities like Dallas, they have these gigantic galleries, and we have a great gallery here. Moberg's a great gallery, but there's not 20 of those in one place.
Right.
So my life is crazy. I mean, I've done 25 shows in a year. I've done, everywhere from Philadelphia. I mean, I've actually been in California, and the following weekend I had a show in Philadelphia before. So it's like always on the road, but then when do you paint? So it's like this constant grind of like making sure you're being productive and still making amazing work that people want to buy, but also you're also the roadie, you're the
tour manager.
Yeah. You're booking your shows.
Sure.
You're trying to figure it all out as you go. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have a wife who is kind of I wouldn't say she's okay, but I mean, she's pretty cool about the fact that I'm like, hey, I'm going to be gone 20 weekends a year.
Sure.
And this is my 20th
Supportive.
year of doing. Yeah, I've been my 20th year of doing that. So yeah, that's kind of the lifestyle of it, and I don't think a lot of people know about it. The people that are in the know, but it's not something everybody is aware of.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it sounds very different, and I don't think very many people have any idea what that's about. How does Des Moines Arts Festival differ from other cities? I mean, do you think that it brings anything different?
Well, first off, we briefly talked about it earlier. It's the Arts Festival, which means not just visual. It's digital art. It's film. It's dance. It's music. It's everything that's in the arts, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's not just. There's a lot of art festivals around the country that don't have that. Secondly, there's a lot of Des Moines people support the Des Moines Art Festival. Sometimes if you're doing a show in Dallas or somewhere else, there's so many other things going on that they're not actually tuned in to it.
Yeah, the Arts Fest is a big deal here.
It's a big deal, and people support it and they come out. Whereas, if I've done Austin, people are like, oh man, Austin's got to be great. Yeah, Austin is a cool town.
Sure.
But there's music going on, other festivals going on every single weekend. So it's not like Des Moines where we're big enough but small enough that when the art festival is in town, it's a gigantic deal. And it's not just that, it's also, which a lot of people don't know this, it's probably one of the top 5 to 10 shows in the nation as far as the level of caliber of artists that will come to this show. And that has to do with the tour. You have Des Moines, and then normally next weekend is Cherry Creek in Denver, which is in the top 5 as well. So if you lived on the East Coast, you make the trip, do Des Moines, you go to Denver the following weekend, and then on your way back, you can hit, Madison, which has a huge show. So it's Des Moines in this really sweet spot of being after Lakefront and Milwaukee, and there's artists that will come from California and all over. So that's what I think a lot of people don't appreciate is the actual quality of the artists is there because we're central, so you can get California artists to drive.
Right.
Whereas if we were on the East Coast and you're an amazing California artist, are you really going to drive all the way across the country?
Right.
Probably not. That's a huge risk.
Right.
So that's one thing that makes Des Moines special as well.
Very nice, very nice. So you've been involved in, you said that you know the promoter pretty well, Steve, right?
Yeah, yep, okay. Steven.
And you had said that, they kind of helped with the arts, maybe made some things a little bit better for artists to be able to attract them and things of that nature as well?
I mean, I'll say this, the Emerging Artist Program is amazing.
Yeah.
There's only one other show in the nation that does that, and that's St. Louis Clayton Show has an emerging artist program like that, which it's free to the emerging artists. They get an opportunity to show their work to 200, 300, whatever shows up.
Sure.
People, And it's a great way to get your feet on the ground. And if you win best of show of that, the following year they actually pay your booth fee.
Very nice.
So you're able to be in the actual 150 artists. So that's awesome. And they've also, I mean, even this, like they have Art Week, which the festival is a part of, which is promoting arts in the community and around town. So they do a really good job. And I in the beginning, when like 15 years ago, there was a lot of like, well, there's not enough local artists in that show. And it's like, well, I mean, this is a top tier show. So you
Sure.
got, I mean, I know myself personally, I raised my game. I was like, okay, well, I want to be there. I want to be in that show. And
there's your goal.
Yeah. And I think that so now there's a lot more Iowa artists, and that I think that they've kind of stepped their game up. Like, all right, that's what it takes to be part of that. Let me go ahead and try and figure out how to be part of that.
Absolutely. So you know, we were kind of talking a little bit just about the fact that the Arts Festival, it really helps promote art, right? You know, I mean, it's bringing in other people and making sure that, how do you feel, how important is this festival to Des Moines?
Well, a perfect example, I'm not going to diss on a place like Omaha, but I've done their festival. You can tell that we have the sculpture park, we have murals, we have what I think is probably at the Des Moines Art Festival that goes under the radar is they have high schooler and like middle school art in the show. And I think it starts at that level. Like it needs to start in the elementary, middle school, high school, the appreciation for art. Because what happens is if your student's talented in art, well, I don't know how many parents that come through and bring their student and are like, man, our son or daughter is like really excelling at this, and then maybe they had a piece in that, and then that kind of confidence grows, and then they're able to like kind of grow from that.
Sure.
And I think that in the Des Moines community is huge, because you can tell there's a higher appreciation for the arts in a town like Des Moines than some other towns that maybe don't have those kind of grassroots, like let's get the children involved, let's get the kids involved in art, and that's been huge for our community. I mean, people here love the art. I mean, they do. I mean, I've painted murals in town and have people hashtagging me and sending me pictures of them standing in front of the murals. And you know, the art festival for me, you know, I've been painting forever. But I know when I painted that first mural on Metro Waste, I was standing in my booth, and I've been doing the festival since 2003 maybe. I don't even know the first year, but wow. People, that happened in 2013. People walking by my booth and be like, oh my God, you're the guy. You know, like,
right.
And I never really thought about it at the time when I was painting it, but you know, those murals, and my work is very playful and childlike. So I'm giving that confidence to that next level or growing artist to be like, yeah, I could do this too.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's why I work with the Bonner high school students. That's why I'm, you know, trying to stay involved in all that type of stuff, because I think it's very important for us to grow it as a community.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. So. You know, you mentioned your style, and you're right. Within those particular murals that you were talking about, they have a certain look to them, a certain feel that is playful and, you know, bright colors and things like that. And I think it kind of sets the tone for maybe outsiders coming into the city. They're like, wow, this is fun, this is neat, you know. Kind of tell us a little bit about your style and how you arrived at your current style. I know that you said that it's morphed over the years, but how did you arrive at your current style?
Break it down simple. I grew up watching Beavis and Butthead. Sure. I love skateboarding, graphics, and, you know, I love graffiti.
Sure.
So if you combine all those ideas, you kind of get where my work comes from. I don't really have like something I say like, oh, I'm a neo pop whatever, you know. It's like, no, that's my influences. It's real simple. If you've seen Beavis and Butthead, you get why my characters look doofusy. If you like graffiti and you know skateboard graphics, you know, I mean, that's what my influences are. So
sure.
I mean, I didn't try and get outside of who I was. I just did it. I'm being true to who I am. And obviously I have other influences, and like college at Richard Diebenkorn, like all these very classical, well-known abstract artists. Like I have those influences as well, but
Sure.
I really stick to that like childlike, playful, fun, style in my work. So
Well, I kind of saw, as I was going through some of your work today too, I saw some, kind of like back to the old toy machine decks and industries. I'm trying to remember the little flame, World Industries. They had the little flame, and I could, now that you say that, I can kind of see some of that kind of coming back into it. So
I mean, the Santa Cruz skateboards in the '90s, like the Corey O'Brien board, like there's so many of those boards that I still reference in my brain. Is like, man, that's such an iconic image, and I'm sure the artist at the time wasn't just trying to make something badass that somebody wanted to ride.
Sure.
But to me, I look back and like my first Christian Hosoi deck was like this all over crazy figurative piece. And I look back and I was like, damn, that was my first board. And, I haven't met him yet, but I know Mike Valele's living in town.
He is.
My first popsicle deck was his like farm themed deck that had the birds, which is weird. Like when people ask me like, oh, you're from Iowa, what do you guys do? You just like corn but that deck was like a farm and like birds and chickens. So anyway, that's been a huge influence.
Absolutely. So you haven't ran into Mike yet then?
I have a couple of times. I just didn't want to, he was
Sure.
he was out, looked like he was having a good time with his family. I'm not going to go up and be like, yo man, what's up? Like I used to ride your deck, but we're going to meet. He's friends with Bruno and like a bunch of other people that are my friends. So we'll end up crossing paths at some point. Maybe at the art festival this weekend. Who knows? He might walk in my booth and be like, oh, I love your work. And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are too.
Paint his deck.
Yeah.
You know? So you said that you skate. Are you still painting decks like for sale for?
Yeah, I always do them in series. I'll do, like the last series I did was like monsters, and I did like 6 decks, and then, I've done all kinds of different ideas. They're always kind of on a theme. I don't do a ton of them because there's not a lot of people who are like, I want a $500 skateboard deck because it's hand painted.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, in the future, I've been talking about like maybe I should, a really popular themed one. Maybe I should have them printed, but that's not really. I'm really about original art. Like if you own something like that, I want you to have it. Maybe they will all end up on a wall. I do have some clients that send me pictures when they get them all laced up with trucks and wheels and ride them, and I'm like, that's pretty sweet. You know, like that's stepping out. I'm into sneakers and stuff, so I'm like, hey man, $500 on a deck, and you want to ride it? That just says how you feel about my work.
Absolutely.
I mean, you want something badass to ride.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think with having the new skate park and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I think that'll be a neat opportunity.
Yeah, I think, and that could be something down the road that ends up happening. I'm kind of, I'll probably paint some in the fall. I mean, it's just one of those things. I got to be in the mood where I want to paint some decks. Right now, I'm really into my new abstract work and like kind of in this idea of where I want to see it go. So I'm like following that down whatever path it's going to go down. And when I feel the mood to like paint some decks, that it's going to happen, and I'll post it on Instagram like, hey, these are coming, and I'll probably have way more people than I have decks, but that's good.
Sure. That'll be awesome. So you mentioned your Instagram. Where can everyone find you? Where can they find you?
The best place locally, I mean, when I'm not at the art festival, is the Hit Moberg Gallery. I have tons of work on their website, but I also, if you just kind of want to see what's happening, go to Chris Vance Art, Instagram or Facebook. And a lot of times, even when I'm taking new work to Moberg, I'll post it on my Instagram that those pieces are going there. I mean, Instagram and Facebook kind of saved me through the pandemic. It was like I was doing drops on there, like sneaker drops, where I would say, these 5 pieces are going to be available Friday, and that's kind of how I survived. And I'm going to probably still do that occasionally, but I've kind of gotten away from that because I've been doing so many commissions and trying to just keep caught up with the festivals that I have coming up. So
Nice.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. So one last question here before I let you go. What kind of impact do you want your art to have on this city?
I think for me, it's more about, it's not as much about like the art as I want people to know that I went to North High. I my parents didn't have much, but you can still, if you work hard, you can like, you could do whatever you set your mind to. It doesn't matter if it's art, music, whatever. And I think that there's something in my work, like everybody that really follows my work is always like, man, you are just a grinder. Like you work so hard all the time trying to be successful. And I tease my kids all the time. I say winners win, and it sounds really stupid, but it is the truth. Like I'm not gonna accept failure. So I wouldn't have these murals if I just quit the first time I started making paintings, because my early work was terrible.
Sure.
And
like most people, right?
Yeah. And I think back to, if we could bring it back to skateboarding. Skateboarding as a kid was a thing where if you rode skateboards, you accepted the fact that you were probably not going to land the trick the first 500 times.
Right.
And you were going to get scraped up.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell that story a lot because sometimes you get scraped up and you make bad art.
Yep.
But the good news is, with art, you can paint over it if you need to, or you just kind of evolve with it. And I think that's what I want to leave. I want people to know, like, yeah, Chris did do that mural. He did this mural. He did that mural. But he also worked really hard to keep striving for greatness. And I don't know if that shows in the work, but I think if you follow the work, you're like, wow. Every year at Moberg, I always bring new work. And my number one goal is for people to be like, I was not expecting to see that from you. And
see that's bigger and better every time.
Yeah, and the evolution, like almost making people feel uncomfortable. Like, that's bizarre. I wasn't expecting that. So, you know, right now I have like 5 different styles. I'm currently like trying to find my way through. Occasionally they cross paths and come together. And when we get down in front of my booth, it'll probably make more sense when you see it all kind of together. It still feels like I painted it, but it definitely has a lot of different directions.
Sure.
So.
Well, we'll definitely be down there, you know, checking it out. And Chris, I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Everyone, Chris Vance here. Make sure you go and check him out. Instagram, Moberg Gallery, and most of all, down at the Arts Festival this weekend. So where's your booth going to be?
Right in front of the Des Moines Radio Group. So it's like on Locust, right across from, yeah.
Right by the art park there?
Yeah, you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.